So the stopping distance of a car, when we talk about how long it actually takes, or the distance that a car travels before it can stop, is made up of two parts. It's made up of the thinking distance, which is how long does it take the driver to react, to actually step on the brakes, and then the braking distance itself. How long does it take the car to come to a stop? And there are several factors that can affect each, and they're fairly straightforward, but you do need to be careful about how you talk about them. All right. So the thinking distance can be affected by many different things, but they're all going to be on the driver. So it could be the age of the driver. It could be whether the driver is distracted, whether they're on their cell phone, whether they're fiddling with the radio or whatever. Of course, whether they're under the influence of any alcohol or drugs. Many It's going to slow their reaction time. Okay. Um, and so the idea is that the longer the thinking distance, of course, the further the car is going to travel, because the slower they are to step on the brake, the car is going to travel more distance during that time. Right. The braking distance is also affected by several things. So it can be affected by the mass of the car. If you think about, say, how long it takes to stop a train versus how long it takes to stop a normal passenger vehicle, then the mass of the train makes it so much more difficult for it to come to a stop. And so it's going to be a lot longer braking distance. All right. The speed, how fast something is going, it's much faster to come to a stop when you're going 20 kilometers an hour versus 100. The condition of the brakes or the tires, either one or both, because the condition of the tires, if they're bald, right, then that's going to, they're not going to have as much friction with the road, so that's going to make it go further. And the brakes, the same thing. It's a friction. The idea is that if the brake pads are worn through, then the friction won't be as great. All right. The other thing is that you think about what the tires are on. So the road surface conditions, whether it's icy, whether it's wet, all of those things are going to affect the amount of friction between the wheels and the tires and the road surface. Okay. And the other thing that could be under thinking distance is the visibility, but I would not recommend necessarily talking about the visibility too much. These others tend to be more guarantees of getting points. Sometimes the visibility, and again, you often have to be specific. So you could say something like it's foggy, or if it's dark out, those kinds of things would affect the thinking distance. But it's not necessarily part of the thinking distance as much as when the driver sees the object. And so this one, I wouldn't recommend writing down if you have the options of all these others.